you can start to make different choices, and they all come with the simple idea of having a little bit of discipline and having 100% responsibility. If I'm 100% accountable for my life, I get free. If I'm 100% accountable for my life, I don't make excuses. I don't point fingers. I just do the work. And when I get into that position, things unfold beautifully. What's up, folks? I record this as I sit overlooking Long Lake through a plethora of pine trees and oaks, and it is fantastic. I've got to get out. Got some swimming to do, learning how to build forts, maybe shoot some trap with shotguns with little kids. I know it sounds dangerous, but it's been crazy. It's been so wild. I've been having the most fun. I'm the luckiest. Let me tell you a story about how lucky I am about coming home here. Is that I got to spend time with this little kid, Pearl. Pearl is, I don't know how old, maybe 2. She's my friend Matthew and Jesse's little girl. 1 of 4. Gracie being the oldest, going into high school, and then Jolie below, and then Gus, who's like a magic child also. And watching the kids grow up, like I'm watching Joel be like a little man right now, and he's like a good friend, and you know, and he's 11 or 12 or whatever. I'm basically 11 or 12 as well, so we get along fantastically. But Pearl, anyway, back to Pearl. Pearl is just got stink eye. She's got this face that she looks at you with, like, not like you stole something from her. It's more like, it's like she can't believe how poorly you're doing at life. She just looks at you with this disdain, this stink eye. After 3 days, she goes, ooh, and makes a face like that when she got excited when she saw that I walked in the door. And I was like, win, and then right back to stink eye. Anyway, on the 4th day, she's sitting there eating yogurt, and she's flicking yogurt all over. It's amazing to watch. I've never seen it before, but like yogurt on the fingers of a 2-year-old that has such an arm on her. I mean, I've heard her slap her brother like on the sneak, and it sounds like a full-grown person just pimp slapped somebody. She's amazing. Blue-eyed, white-haired. You've never seen anything like it. And then I start feeding her, and she takes it, and her mom's like, wow, she wasn't letting me feed her. I was like, wow, cool, I'm in. And then on the second bite, she scoops up a bunch of yogurt out of the dish also, and I was like, here's where it gets messy. And she reaches out, and she feeds me yogurt by the handfuls then. And we're feeding each other. And basically, it's the best time of my life. If you hear that your boy T. Diggity dies, just know that I'm good, man. I'm happy. It's fantastic. This is a coming home episode, if there ever was one. And I've had a fantastic time, and a lot of it I look at, you know, and I look at just some beautiful folks, man, some salt of the earth people that take responsibility, drive hard, work hard, love hard, relax. The whole thing, man. Really, really lucky to live in this country, and really, really lucky to be born in Alpena. I got to see my pops a lot, which was awesome. And I still get to. I'm still here, man. I need a cup of coffee. I'm killing it on the Keurig coffee. There's a little joint called Cabin Creek. Cabin Creek is this coffee shop. I love it. They've got all these little badass chicks running around that are top notch at service, at smiles, at everything. Like, everybody is gracious. In LA, motherfuckers look at you at the store and they're like, what? I'm like, I'm here to help pay your rent, dog. Like, you need to relax with that. Santa Fe too, same shit, man. Like, people just, it's like working against yourself. It brings me up to all kinds of ideas about success, about plotting myself. I found out about myself ways that I am that I never knew I was that way. And like, this is for sure the reason I'm this way. I mean, mushrooms, mud bogs, guns, and keg parties in the woods had a lot to do with my upbringing. However, there's also this consistency of work ethic and drive and attention to excellence and striving to grow and learn more. It's fantastic. And it inspired me yesterday to do some writing, and then I put out a couple of Instagrams or something about that really all you need to do is try. You know, I'm watching my little nephew go, and he's nervous sometimes, but like he'll try, you know, and you've just got to try things. And I think that's the hugest lesson for me, the takeaway for adults, for everybody, is it doesn't matter how you fare. It doesn't matter what happens. The guy that wins is the guy that just keeps trying, because everybody else will quit. You can almost count on it. And this aspect about trying to do the things you love is like, that's building the life you love then. I mean, I can count to, I don't know, all the different people that I know that have built lives, like Logan over at Deuce Gym. He built a life that didn't exist before. He didn't have a gym. He didn't have money. He did it in a park. He did it for free. He bought barbells as he went. It's like that nerd Ariel, that he's a journalist for MMA. Well, he got out of journalism school, and there wasn't the kind of journalism he liked. So he goes in and builds his own industry, and he just hangs around the UFC until they invite him to come around more. And he has his own news channel, his own podcast and all that, and he kills it. And it's like that exists in almost every industry, everywhere. You dream up what you love doing, and you start doing that and offer it to people and package it and have a attention to your own excellence and detail when you do it. You don't have to do it expertly. But man, once you start trying, you start to kind of polish the edges off of it. You start to make the product a little bit better. And you don't do that unless you jump in. Everybody wants to get training, and then they think they'll jump in. I know so many people that are so well trained, and they never jump in, they never try. They're in the motion, so they think that they're trying. It's like a trick you play on your mind. Like, ooh, I'm in school for forever, so it looks like I'm trying. No, it looks like you're a scrub that's a coward that's scared to take control of your life and just jump in. I see coaches like that. I see everybody like that. Then you get the other side. You get the coaches that are all these fake-ass rappers that are like, I'm a coach because I said it on the internet. And then, I mean, it's all of it, right? Anyway, back to the beauty of it all. So then I put this out on Snap or Instagram or one of those things, and this person hits me back, and they're like, man, I've tried, and now what do? I just can't do it. You know, I've tried and tried and tried to get to the top, and all I can do is make $16 an hour. I've got no direction. I'm not surrounded by go-getters. I don't have any passion for anything that I can make money at. Like, kind of having a bit of a self-crisis. I'm 38. It's not setting in well. I have major obligations with 2 jobs, big commutes, living in a farm with old people, and a horse who's young, strong, and hard-headed, and I love him. Doing things for myself is selfish. I haven't had sex, and I mean, this whole life is fucked, right? And I go, man, it's a choice. You've chosen that life, right? You've chosen it. And I look at all this, and I just deconstruct even just that little bit. Tried, and I can't go without owning the business. It's like, well, then own the business. Work yourself into a position where you've got credit, where you've got availability to own a business. Topping out at $16 an hour, it's like the dollar sign doesn't matter, because if you're not happy at that, you're not going to be happy at $1,000 an hour. You're not even going to know how to juggle that. If you can't learn little systems, there's no way you're going to be able to carry weight for big systems. Fact is, most people that are in systems for a long time, they already know it, but they're so self-obsessed that they're not aware that they have excellence and they have extreme knowledge of the business they're in, because maybe they don't have as much as they could have because they're over there thinking about themselves all the time. This self-indulgence is fucking killing people. And it comes up all the time in like little spots like this. Major commutes. You choose to live. I was just talking to one of my best friends growing up. He chooses to live an hour away from work. He could live right in that city. He's like, well, I don't have any friends there. In the previous conversation, I was like, well, do you go out much? No, I just kind of go to work and I go home. It's like, well, you're not utilizing any friends where you are anyway. None of that shit matters. This whole thing about I can keep a horse, like, you choose to keep a horse, and then you get to keep a shitty job and live with people in the woods. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You got to make choices. A dude told me a long time ago, he goes, Tait, you want a new life? And I did desperately. And he goes, do you know what the price is? And I've said this before. The price is your whole life. All your old life, you got to throw it away and walk into something fresh. It'll fit better. All your experiences of your old life will come with you. Hopefully not all of the bitterness and all the shittiness of it, but like, that's a real thing, man. And you can really access that at any time. You can start to make different choices, and they all come with the simple idea of having a little bit of discipline and having 100% responsibility. If I'm 100% accountable for my life, I get free. If I'm 100% accountable for my life, I don't make excuses. I don't point fingers. I just do the work. And when I get into that position, things unfold beautifully. It's fucking science. I swear to God. This whole thing is about coming home, man. It's a beautiful place to be. I have to stop all the time and just appreciate and live in that appreciation. Our guest today is John Arbuckle. John Arbuckle is a savage, just a beautiful, beautiful guy. I'll let him go ahead and tell you the story about how he got going. But John is a pig farmer, and he owns a great company called Roam Sticks. And Roam Sticks, I had first at Paleo Effects a couple of years ago, and they're delicious. Like, no sugar added. Like, most meat is cured with sugar, and there's all that in it. And, you know, I try to stay keto friendly. I'm not trying to mess with a bunch of sugars. And it's just awesome, nutritious, good fats, good proteins, and that's it in these Roam Sticks. You can find them at roamsticks.com. But John's a multi-generational pig farmer, and the stories he's got about pigs and about, like, sometimes he feeds them only kale. Sometimes he feeds them only deer carcasses from hunts he's been on. And the different ways the attitude gets expressed differently depending on the food, and the different ways the meat is expressed, and what he's learned. He was a guy that grew up in pig farming business, and he took a sojourn and went off, and he became a whitewater raft guide for, I don't know, I think 9 or 12 years or something, for a good stretch. And went to school, came back home, and he just started up a business, and he wanted a sustainable farm. He wanted to go away from all the corporate kind of fuckery that occurs in the farming system, and he's just a really good guy. And so check it out. You can check out John at Roam Sticks, and you can find out where to look at his farm, and he's very helpful if you have any sustainable growing ideas or endeavors that you'd like somebody that is excellent to be a part of. This is the guy, man. He's just a fantastic, fantastic guy. Single source food for pigs. He's got the happiest pigs in town. He just moves the fence lines around and goes from grazing to grazing to grazing, and it's really fantastic. All these podcasts are brought to you by Caveman Coffee. I want to thank you for checking us out, holding it down through July here. It's been a great, great month, and looking for some new cold brew flavors. I hope that you're able to get them. I know that we've been selling out so quickly that the cold brew nitros just fly off, man. And a lot of guys are hitting me up saying that it comes back as on hold on a wait list. And just bear with us, man. We're trying to stay up with the demand. Lacey and Keith and I are just a small company, and we've got these badasses. You know, Josh and Moses and Eric are killing it for us in the warehouse. But, you know, we're just where we're at. So we're just looking at changing systems all the time and keeping you up to date with the best beans, beverages, etc. If you do sign up for a mailing list, if you sign up on a subscription, that automatically puts you at the top of the list as far as all those sales go. You get to know if we get 10, 20, 30, 40% off or free shipping. All that kind of jazz is up all the time. You can follow us on Instagram at Caveman Coffee Co. And all those sales are there. Follow myself or Lacey Mackey also, Keith Jardine also. And you can check out any of the sales or upcoming events, all things Caveman Coffee. I also want to thank Strength Crate. StrengthCrate.com is a fantastic way that you can kind of tip your toe into the water that is fitness. In this huge world, there's a bunch of people that come up and pop up, and some stick around, some go away. However, mostly the attention to quality and excellence is so good that even if companies can't make it for whatever reason, they've got some good products out there. And all the products get brought to you by these different subscription boxes. Strength Crate is a subscription box, offers apparel, nutrition, diet advice. It offers tips to work out, and it's just a box that is filled with gear, nutrition, and for the month. They don't give you like a couple samples. They give you a month's supply of whether it's a Caveman Coffee or MCT, or whether they're hand wraps, or whether it's knee sleeves, or whatever the case may be. Check them out at Strength Crate. They've got a whole bunch of different varieties of boxes, different levels, and getting a subscription box once a month, it's like a invigorating little gift in the mail where you're like, ooh, cool, man, I want to go and spice up my workout like this. I want to try my recovery, see if this works for my recovery better. I've got this injury, and here's what a guy says, there's an active release ball or something in it. Like, they've got everything that you might want, and things that you didn't know that you were going to find super useful, they include in the box. It's a real easy way to go. And this podcast has also been brought to you by my bros. And if you're into meditation, you're into any kind of transcendental health, you're into any kind of cold therapy, heat therapies, these infrared saunas are phenomenal. You can find them at Sauna Space. I get in every morning and every night, and I do 20 minutes of meditation in the morning in it and 20 minutes at night, because it's the only time I'm really away from electronics and that I can take charge of my life and dial it in and just try to empty my mind. And the practice of doing that is a motherfucker, you guys. It's not easy. Sitting there and trying to think of nothing and going, oh, who do I have to call? Or I got laundry to do. And just really actively trying to just focus on my breath. It's one of the most freeing things, and I was going to say energetic, but what it does is it gives me energy throughout the day. It's like it frees up my mind a little bit to put me, just like this lake I'm looking at a placid state, at a calm state, to address the day without bringing all the baggage of yesterday. And at night, it allows me to unpack it. Now, the other thing is I get mitochondrial regrowth and health. I get all kinds of the benefits that come from elevating body core temperatures. The infrared light is fantastically nourishing and healing. And I'm with the Sauna Space guys in the next episode of Pirate Life Radio, and you'll be able to hear all about the journey and what it took to get there then. But they make these badass pocket saunas anyway, is the long and short of this. They're pretty cheap. They're around $1,000, and you can go ahead and have it in your home. It's like the size of a small closet, basically. And it's just canvas. It's easy to put together. No tools are necessary or anything. So check them out at Sauna Space and saunaspace.com or at Sauna Space on Instagram. Fantastic people, all handmade, and a background of education in science, in medicine, and in architecture. And it's an amazing company. And it's one of those things that I'm super grateful just to be able to be a part of. Also, additionally, we're going to be doing a test, or not a test. I'm sorry. We're trying to read and get all this stuff together. It makes my mind do that sometimes, which is not useful. But anybody that podcasts can feel me. We're doing a Sauna Space giveaway for a one-of-a-kind Pirate Life home infrared sauna. It's going to be all black, and we're going to do a custom for one winner. It's going to be a custom all black Pirate Life Sauna Space, and one winner is going to get that. Details are going to get announced on the Pirate Life Instagram, which you can find us at Pirate Life Radio, Sauna Space Instagram, and through the Pirate Life email. Make sure that you follow and subscribe to all three, and also, of course, at Caveman Coffee Co. So you can check us out at Pirate Life Radio and at Sauna Space. Plug in your emails, and we'll get you on a mailing list, and we'll enter you for the drawing, which probably will be around, I think, a Thanksgiving giveaway that we'll be looking at. I'm going to have to, don't quote me on that. I also want to thank Doc Parsley. Doc Parsley Sleep Cocktail. Check them out, docparsley.com. Stay away from PharmaCon. It's bullshit. Get yourself something natural, use it consistently for a month, see if there's a difference. A lot of the stuff about sleep is cutting out the garbage from your life, sugars and things like that, getting proper rest, nutrition, and hydration. And Doc Parsley Sleep Cocktail, all natural, made by a goddamn Navy SEAL and a doctor and a badass human and a guy that's growing all the time, Kirk Parsley, my friend, and I buy the sleep cocktail. I just love the shit so much. I talk about it because I've got a bunch of older people in my life, my man Harrison and different guys that need that sleep cocktail, and they don't get prescribed sleep cocktail by the doctor. We are so ahead of the game, you guys, that we're ahead of medicine in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not saying go to medicine, just disregard medicine, but what I'm saying is there are other options that are out there that are beyond this homeopathic bullshit stuff and that are really into real results. I mean, I'm results oriented, man. All I want is function and performance, and Doc Parsley delivers. Also want to thank Ryan Muncie at Natural Stacks and the OPP podcast, and my girl Jen over there at Rogue Raw Oregon. If you look at rogueraworegon.com, that's ROGUERAW Oregon.com. Check them out. All your natural and CBDs and in edible cannabis products. And also, please check out my family over at Jumbo Superfoods. They are literal lifesavers, and I'll get into that on another podcast, but I just can't thank them enough, man. The love and kindness of this world is astounding to me. It's astounding. At any rate, one more plug for Sauna Space, man. Saunaspace.com. It's a portable sauna. It's not this huge wooden thing. It's just made out of canvas and slender little, I think it's basswood frames that you can just put together. It's near infrared, and it's a therapeutic infrared and light and heat therapy dose that penetrates the mitochondrial level, provides natural healing of light and heat. It's a gorgeous design, handcrafted by artisans, carefully selected materials so nothing leaches into your body or into the air as it heats. It's hand-tooled wood, metal, and analog components, breathable fabric, no plastic or EMF issues to add toxicity to your space, tungsten lamps with an incandescent and natural thermal light spectrum of red, near infrared, and thermal infrared light wavelengths. That's unlike almost any other sauna out there. Try it for yourself with the 100-day trial, 100% money back. Hit them up at Sauna Space. Thank you all. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. And also, remember, be good to each other. Spread some hugs around there. Focus on how appreciative you are of your very breath and life and everything around you right now. Because I know that if I can't do that, no matter what changes in my life, I'm not going to have happiness. And that's the goal, man. That's what God told me. He says, Tait, all this other stuff, just be happy, man. The more you're smiling and the more you're bringing smiles to others, that's the deal right there, son. So that's our job, people. I hope you're up to the task. Much love.
A big Tait Fletcher.
Powerful Tait Fletcher.
Is a real alpha male.
Weightlifter.
He's a stuntman.
Movie star. Robust, enthusiastic individual.
He's huge, by the way. He's like a monster person.
One of the sweetest guys I know.
He's bigger than life.
Actor.
Entrepreneur.
A fighter.
The jiu-jitsu technician.
He's also bald and he has all these tattoos. He's just a big fucking man.
A man, a myth, a legend.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher.
What's up, Tait Fletcher, you bad motherfucker?
Tait Fletcher. Tait Fletcher is
Tait Fletcher.
Teddy bear motherfucking Fletcher, ladies and gentlemen.
That's Tait Fletcher, everybody.
The great Tait Fletcher. Tait the animal Fletcher. Tait the savage Fletcher. Always moving. There's no stillness with Tait Fletcher. You will find no dust.
Tait Fletcher's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. He just said the word erection.
Tait Fletcher.
Tait Fletcher's in the fucking house. Tait Fletcher!
Tait really blasts out some serious hardcore truth bombs, and I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Welcome. We're good to go.
Thanks, Tait.
Yeah. So, you're saying you spend most of your time alone?
Yeah, it's somewhat by design. I can't tell if I'm an introvert or an extrovert sometimes, because when I'm by myself, I really recharge. But then when I get up in front of a big group of people and I get the opportunity to talk about the small farmers movement, or really the small farmers movement is important to me, but what's more important is that's the lens that I see the earth-human relationship sort of developing from. That's the lens that I see the earth through, is how do I work with the earth to create healthy things and a healthy lifestyle and healthy, nourishing food. So yeah, I do spend, I guess, most of my time alone, and that's spent on our farm and ranch in Missouri, where we raise pasture-raised pigs.
And who's we?
My wife and I, and we have 2 kids.
How old are the kids?
We have a little boy named Noah, who's 9, and a little girl named Mary, who's 6.
When you have kids and you have a bunch of pigs, do you have to train them to not get into the pig?
No.
All I think of with last night, I could like 2 movies in particular. I don't know if it's Snatch or Lock, Stock, but that, and then of course Hannibal.
Sure.
And I just think about pigs are not as cute and cuddly as they look.
You know, our pigs are, with a few exceptions, really are cute and cuddly. So we'll raise 250 this year, and they're very used to humans coming up there. They're usually in the hot weather of summer, they're in the forest, and we'll be controlling their movements with solar electric fencing. There will be solar panels attached to a fencing line, which looks like a giant deep sea fishing reel that we can reel in.
Cool.
So we can control their movements pretty easily. The pigs are always happy to see us. There's only been 2 occasions when we felt like the pigs were going to eat a person, and we sold those pigs very quickly.
Right.
You know.
What precipitates that? Is there a cycle of events that you're like, we don't need to do this with the pigs anymore because this riles them up?
Yeah, this particular one was personality based. There was one pig named Blondie who was protective of her young, but really in the extreme. And some other baby pigs got into her pen, and something flipped in her brain, and she thought to herself, well, I have to kill those little pigs. So she was making the effort to catch and kill those pigs. And
that's a common thing in animals, isn't it? I mean, that they want their biology to go forward. I mean, you hear about that all the time with lions and killing their young and...
Potentially. Generally in the pig world, they're somewhat opportunistic. So if we have 10 or 12 mama pigs who have their babies at the same time, for the first week, their babies will just nurse from them. But after 6 weeks, it's this giant, like, sneak up and nurse whoever is lying down.
It's cool.
So, you know, they all get along. Most of our breeding sows will be sisters, so they've been together their whole lives. But so I got in the pen. The pen being very loosely defined as a pen, it was a forest with an electric fence around it. And I jumped in the pen and grabbed...
How many acres is that? Or what kind of area is, like, your fenced-in, like, working area for pigs?
Yeah, we will usually have about...
Got to be pretty close.
About a half acre. And so we'll get them in about a half acre. And so that's what it was in this instance. The entirety of the farm is about 50 acres, an acre being about the size of a football field, so if you imagine 50 football fields. So we got in, and I grabbed the pig to rescue it and get it away from her. And
how big is she?
She is 450 pounds, probably. Big girl.
Yep.
And I grabbed her by the little pig by the hind leg and started to run away with it. And she just, eyes lit up, hair stands up. She's after me. I went through college on a track and cross country scholarship, so I can run. And I was running as hard as I could, and I could feel her teeth on the back of my legs with every step. It was my right leg. I could feel her teeth on the back of my leg. And she never sunk them in, though. It was kind of like a brush. I think I felt the brush about 6 times.
Wow.
Before I outdistanced her.
I didn't know they had a prey drive like that.
Yeah, they can be like a really mean dog if they're in the wrong mood. If they have, and that pig was in the process of being transformed into sausage, within 48 hours. So it can't stay. She got fired.
Right. Act right or you're bacon.
Yeah, that's right. The other time we were doing an experiment. This was before we raised pigs commercially for sale, and we were just raising pigs for our family. And I was feeding some of those pigs deer bones. during hunting season. You know, Missouri has a big deer season. So we had raised one group of pigs on deer bones during deer season, and they had become kind of lie-in-wait alligators. And they knew that meat was nourishing, you know. So this I stressed that this was not meat that was to be for sale.
Right.
This was just for my family. So they would lie in wait, and when the chickens, we have chickens, when the chickens walked by, they would spring and they would eat the chickens. And I found that to be a little bit concerning, but I felt like they would stay in their pen. And so after they ate several chickens,
and the chickens would learn to stay away or something.
Chickens don't really.
They don't learn.
They don't. No, in my experience, I can't tell that they learn very much.
Right. Got it.
A pig will learn a lot.
Well, it seems like it. I mean, it sounds like I remember Steve Irwin, who was a crocodile hunter, and he'd talk about his crocs like that. Like they have a farm of crocs, and that they, even if you're hanging over and hanging meat over the rail, they'll look at the meat and they'll lunge for you if your body's exposed.
Is that right?
And they'll lay in wait and they'll look at you out of the corner of their eye. They'll pretend they're going over here, and then they'll dart at you. They'll take a hard 90. Like whereas alligator is, I guess, more docile. Okay. A croc is a predatory dinosaur, and like the pigs, that's like when you're talking about the pigs yesterday, I was like, that's what they sound like like really thinking, kind of cunning animals. That they're problem solvers.
Very, very much so, and that's what comes with being an omnivore. You know, as opposed to a strict herbivore. The cattle that I've raised, the sheep that I've raised, none of them are. I hesitate to use the word cognizant, but it approaches it, you know, in terms of solving problems. The omnivores, the larger omnivores, can solve problems, like raccoons, for example, or pigs, or bears. You know, the large omnivores, they have a problem-solving capacity that is much higher than the herd herbivores.
Now, that what they say causes that is the additional fat, animal fat, and proteins and cholesterol in the brain that causes the brain to grow more than a regular herbivore would. Is that a similar thing that you've heard?
My impression is that since their food stuff is so varied, you know, that they actually have to employ their problem-solving abilities in order to find the next patch. Whereas cows, if they just keep walking around, they'll find grass eventually.
Right.
You know, there's not like really problem-solving. There's just eat what's in front of you and then move forward until you find it again.
Right.
You know, whereas pigs are actually like solving riddles. But just to back to that. The last one.
How terrified are you? 180 beats a minute, 200 beats a minute, like when you have that grazing at the back of your foot when you're running away with the pig?
I don't experience fear as a negative emotion.
Just stimulating.
Yes. I was, you know, I spent 12 years guiding pretty extreme rafting trips. So when I experience fear, I'm generally experiencing it mixed with excitement and with a certain ridiculous optimism that things are going to work out and I am going to succeed.
It's the way to look at it, man. That's the way to succeed.
Yeah.
I mean, what we believe it's proven again and again in my own life and everyone that I talk to, and then when I read about these really wicked smart doctors that will map the brain and they'll take pictures of it depending on your thought processes, and you can see what lights up, and that positivity to have hope and like a optimism towards a positive result garners an optimal result.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So in this instance, these pigs, I dropped a bucket into their run.
How many pigs?
This was 3.
Okay.
This was a 3 that had been living on a certain quantity of meat. And I dropped the bucket into the pen, and then it was wintertime, and I reached into the pen to get the bucket, and I was wearing a coat, and they did the same thing they did to the chickens. They lunged and got a hold of my coat and started to pull me. And I slipped off my coat and ran away.
Like, I don't like that coat nor the bucket very much.
And we had harvested those pigs within 48 hours too.
I bet.
You know, just because we have kids, and you know, there can't be essentially the equivalent of a velociraptor.
Right. Now, if that gets loose on your farm and goes in, it will live in the wild and it will hunt and forage and create a a pack if it's able, right?
In the summer months, a large pig has the ability to find the small amount of feed that it needs to live on. In the winter months in Missouri, I have heard old-timers tell stories of it. I can't tell if they're believable or not, but I think that they wouldn't do well in the winter. But I think that a large sow who has learned to be thrifty can survive in the wild.
Wild, man.
There's a lot of wild where we are, you know? I mean,
Sure.
we joke we can stand on top of our barn and watch the dog run away for 3 days. If we do get up on top of our barn, what we see is there's a small river canyon, you know, within a mile of the house. There's big open patches of prairie, and then which are very hilly, and there's no flat spots. And then what's not open prairie or a river valley, there might be a half a dozen small creeks. There's lots and lots of livestock ponds, and then about 40-50% of the land is forested, which is not used for anything except for hunting in the fall. So we live in, and parts of it are roadless, you know. So when we think of Missouri, people don't generally think of Yosemite, you know, or the western kind of states sort of wilderness. But it's worth thinking that if you've ever seen Dances with Wolves, imagine Dances with Wolves but kind of spotted with trees. And that's the ecosystem we live in. So there's room for a lot of animals to live in a wild way.
It's awesome, man. What did you do before you got, like, was your family before you, the rest of your people into farming, agriculture, pigs, any of that, or is this a departure from the family business or an extension of?
Yeah, my children are the 10th consecutive generation to grow up on a small, diverse family farm in America. We'll celebrate our 300th year farming in America in 2032. So,
really?
Yeah. We arrived in 1732. And from there we had arrived in a town north of Glasgow, where we did the same thing, mixed crops and livestock. In that ecosystem, it was wheat and lamb. And in the ecosystem that I'm in now, I predominantly grow forage crops for pigs and pigs.
Right.
So I'm essentially doing the same thing as William Arbuckle. You know, 200. Who's my great whatever.
Yeah.
You know, going back.
Now, had they always done that for sale? You said there was a time when you're just raising pigs and chickens and such for your family. Like, at what time did you go, you know what, I want to take this to market?
Yeah. We, well, let's see. I grew up on my father was a full-time farmer, and my grandfather. So my father, my grandfather, and I grew up farming together. And then I got a degree in sustainable agriculture in Durango, Colorado, which was a great place to get a degree. And then I guess I promptly went on to guide wilderness rafting trips for 12 years with my sustainable ag degree.
In the Colorado or where?
I worked in 9 countries, from Nepal to Chile and Argentina, Ecuador, all through Central America. And, you know, for a long time, the plan was just go as big as the world will let you and teach people to enjoy nature and to light up that part of their brain that doesn't get lit up quite enough, you know, and to really put that sparkle in people's eyes when it comes when they are in a boat falling off of something in a beautiful place.
Don't you think that the part of that is like having a communion with nature and with the earth and with water in a different way than we're used to, because we're so insulated, whether it's by cement or by the craziness of our lives and jobs and all that. We were talking the other day with Ben Greenfield, and he was talking about making a lean-to with his kid. He's got this land out around his boys, but I just remember being a boy in Michigan and go out and fall asleep in the woods or something, in the pine needles or whatever, and you can, like, there's a different kind of nurturing that happens in that. And it's really interesting when you think of things as sentient things, even trees or in any of that kind of stuff, and you think of the living mosses or the mushroom systems that are ever present but only show themselves every now and then. You know, like it's a different thing that I think is super valuable. I think there's a disconnect maybe with who we are in our psyches if we're not attuned to that. Like,
and if we're not frightening ourselves in a positive way, in a positive and healthy way, with some regularity, I think that our brains really evolved with that.
That's the theme of every highly active, like successful person that I talk to. Do something scary every day. Challenge yourself. Yeah. Like get yourself in. People are so worried about like I want to be stress free, and it's like no. Everybody I know that's jamming puts themselves in high stress endeavors, and they orchestrate them.
Yeah. You know. What comes to my mind when you talk about the world being a sentient thing is one of the things that kind of spotted my rafting, chapter of life was I really, at a certain point, I felt like I was given this like vocation from the universe that I was supposed to move in with indigenous people, and that those indigenous people were going to be living in the high desert of the Southwest, or the greater Southwest ecosystem, which encompasses the states of Chihuahua and Sonora in Mexico. And it was such a blazingly clear calling that I just dropped out of everything I was doing and hitchhiked to the Copper Canyon region of Mexico and took up residence. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I took up residence in a cave beside the Urique River at the bottom of the Copper Canyon National Park.
Did you have to evict anybody from that cave?
No, it was empty. It was empty. But the native people who were living in the area were the Tarahumaras. They called themselves the Raramuris.
Is that like the mother of Earth, or?
Tarahumara means the people who run really fast.
Really?
Because their form of recreation were these incredible endurance races that would go night and day, and they would take a ball of oak and they would carve it into something that looks about like a croquet ball, and then they would just kick it all the way around the mesa. They'd have races that were like 50-mile races. They do ultras as their thing.
It's a warm-up.
Yeah, and then through the night they would take pitch pine and they'd hang it from like little pieces of wire on sticks, and that'd be their flashlight. And then there'd be one dude who was just the ball spotter, and when the first dudes would kick the ball, then the guy with the burning pitch pine would chase after it just to show him, like a golf spotter.
Right.
But I felt like part of my calling was to experience being close to the earth in a place where people had been affecting the earth in a positive way for millennia. And that's what the Tarahumaras have been doing. They grow corn, they hunt and gather. They had some ties with the Apache, in the American Southwest. And anyway, I was close to a Tarahumara village. I was also close to a mestizo roadless peach orchard. And the entire canyon that I was in, it was a 2-day walk to the nearest dirt road, and that was a 20-kilometer walk to the nearest paved road, which was a 40-kilometer drive to the nearest small town, which was just a little cowboy town.
Now, how many Tarahumara are there living in that area?
In total, in Mexico, there's 50,000 speakers of the Raramuri language.
Okay.
So it's a pretty intact group. When people imagine that wild Native Americans or wild Native people don't exist anymore, they just haven't been to Copper Canyon, because the village that I was closest to, my friend Augustine, who helped me in my little Three Sisters farm that I had down there, Augustine said, I'm going into town to buy some supplies. I'm getting married and I'm building a house. And I was like, great, what are you gonna get? He says, I need a few things. And when he came back, he had a brown paper bag full of about 200 nails. And the entire rest of his house he was going to harvest from the forest. And he did. And I saw it before.
He's like, I just need these connectors.
I just need these connectors. And that was all. He got the entire rest of it. So his labor and his knowledge and his community. And most exciting to me was the way that village viewed the earth and the closeness to the earth that they felt. And that's great, like closeness to the earth is great, but what do we do with that in America was sort of my question, because I obviously am not Terra Mera. So eventually there was the realization, I need to return to my homeland. That's one of the hallmarks that I see in the indigenous people I'm working with, is they are connected to their ecosystem in their homeland. And they have a group of people around them that are helping them to remain resilient. Whatever dark forces may be attached to the rise of modernization, the communities that have some degree of vibrancy still today were able to pick and choose which one of those influences they wished to enter their community. Frying pans, great. No big negative downfall. Soda pop, gosh, that gets into a Native American community and diabetes.
I mean, we saw what happened in some of the Samoan islands, in the far reaches of the Samoas, they introduced McDonald's and high fructose corn syrup, orange soda, and then the death rates go through the roof at 20 years earlier than they ever had before, and they're like, what's the change about? And obesity is sky high, like all that stuff. It's interesting with cultures like that, or the Terra Mera versus America. We've got a couple hundred years of this under our belt, and like you talk about people with 5,000 or 10,000, where it's in America, it's kind of a clean slate of like, what would you like your homeland to be, and then designing it. And some people with good design choices, and you look at I always think about the Amish people, and I go, they're really trying to hold on to, and it's not, it can look crazy because you're wearing wool clothes and you're dressed like it's 1740, but like the thing is they're trying to hold on to a value or a standard of consciousness that they're not wrong to think could slip away, but it's kind of a scarcity mindset in a way too, because you're like, there's a whole new world of understanding and knowledge that's available, and to decipher and pick and choose and allow us all to be really autonomous instead of going, no, this is our outfits, and I mean, and you going back, it's like this, it's like you've been in creation then. It's amazing, man.
It's what it feels like. And so what I think is, upon witnessing communities that had high degrees of resiliency, what do I learn from that? What do I bring into my life that helps me, pick and choose or sort healthy from unhealthy choices? And that vocation continues of I want to be an indigenous farmer. I want to reap the benefits of, when I'm having my leisure time, I'm totally relaxed. I have a whole community of people that I can, when I need help, we grow about 10,000 heads of organic garlic a year also with our pigs. And when it's time to harvest those, the whole neighborhood shows up, and two guys play the guitars and sing and don't pick any garlic, and 3 or 4 people, grill barbecue ribs, and then I kind of direct the wagon movement and the harvesting of all the garlic. And then when it's all done, we sing a song and we eat a bunch of barbecue ribs, and
That's awesome. Why garlic?
Why garlic? Because it's so easy. I planted it in October when I'm not planting anything else, except for cereal rye. We grow cereal rye as a cover crop. So
explain cover crop.
A cover crop? I will finish.
Okay.
Let me finish the garlic, and then I'll go, because we do a lot with cover crops. So there's no insects, there's no weeds, there's no weeding. I mulch it really heavily with straw, and that adds organic matter to the field. So garlic is the perfect crop for the lazy farmer like me, who I just want to plant it, and then it goes dormant after a while and spends the winter dormant. And then in the springtime, the next step is to have this big garlic pulling party with guitars and barbecue ribs.
Right.
And then we bring all the wagons into the barn and we let it cure. But so little of it requires hard work on my part, and then it has a very high cash value. Garlic has a high value, and it stores, so logistically
no spoilage, it just makes sense.
Spoil. I don't have to freeze it. There's a lot of great things about garlic. So anyway, that's one of the ways that I've tried to apply indigenous wisdom on our farm. The other way is that it may seem cliche, but a certain amount of self-sufficiency. You know, for whatever our base needs are, I like to be trying to have those things come from my watershed. And one of the things that has made rural communities in America less self-sufficient, less resilient, more prone to many modern difficulties like diabetes or violence or all kinds of things that plague rural communities, is that they're so dependent on corn and soybeans and the commodity market. This is a mistake. If we really make ourselves dependent for our income and thereby our peace of mind and thereby our equilibrium, we can kind of loosely link those things. If we're dependent on the commodity system or the Chicago Board of Trade for commodities for our livelihood, we're going to experience great upheaval eventually, because that system doesn't care about humans. Whether the corn and soy is coming out of Brazil or Argentina or Kansas,
there's no loyalty.
There's no loyalty in that system, and it's not producing something that nourishes human health.
Well, and we have a like I think is in Virginia maybe, where we have a history of that, where when settlers came and there was I think maybe in Roanoke, there was people were just wiped out. The whole colony was, and everybody had ideas about it. And there was a historian that went in and looked, and it was because of tobacco farming.
Okay.
And because they put all of their efforts into that, they never did any crop rotation.
Yeah.
And then they all starved to death when the winter came. But they had such dollar signs in their eyes about this new crop that they were able to exploit.
Yeah.
And they played themselves.
Yeah.
And
Very much so, very much so. And, I always distinguish the people in a system from the system. So, like, I grew up on a big corn and soy farm. And so I know that the people who are planting corn and soy are just wonderful, wonderful, sweet people. But unfortunately, there's been a certain amount of trickery higher up in the government.
It feeds a corrosive industry. Is that the?
Yeah, where we've sort of been seduced into rural communities not producing healthy food for sale regionally, but producing a commodity crop that can be loaded onto barges and shipped anywhere. So there's danger there. There's lack of resiliency. There's lack of stability. And that's why rural communities, if you drive through rural Missouri, where I live, about 3/4 of the town, when you drive through them, literally half the town has collapsed. Like the roofs have fallen in. And that's because the money is no longer staying in the communities. It's like this pipeline of like gas stations and McDonald's and stuff, where once the money is spent, it is gone from the community. The community is impoverished. Whereas traditionally, pre-World War II, when you spent your money in the community, you bought something from your neighbor who bought something from their neighbor. It was sticky money. It just made this big circle, and the money stayed in the community a lot longer and thereby enriched more of your neighbors. So we tried to do that. We tried to get our farm to run on what our neighbors can produce and what I can produce. For example, we don't burn gasoline for our farming. We drive big teams of Belgian draft horses. Horses can live on grass. I can get grass from my neighbors. My neighbors can help me with horses and harnesses and equipment. And thereby I can enrich the people who I want to see enriched.
Is there I just think there's an incumbent hopelessness in communities like that. Like I grew up in a small town in northern Michigan, and it's very similar. It's hard to find really good food unless you go to the farmer's market. Mm-hmm. Everything else is going to be from a Cisco truck or something like that, right? And I'm living around all these farms and venison-rich woods and all this but it's very difficult to eat in a healthy manner. And then also there's this real feeling of like it's tough to get ahead, and maybe it's just not for me, this kind of modernized world that we're living. There's a real feeling of that, and I was like, Do you feel like you're getting a foothold and turning that around? Because that must be present in your community as you describe it too. I mean, I know those towns that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I think to myself, I would like to have a positive influence on the world, and that's going to start with myself. The only person I really have a lot of control over is me. So I can make decisions that make my world possible, if only on my own farm. I always encourage people, don't wait for the government to pass a law that mandates whatever you want. Pass that law for yourself. Like if I don't want to see gasoline burned on my farm, that's great. I can pass my own law, as comical as it sounds. And we bring the horses in, twice a month and do some cool thing. And
it's beautiful. And
we have a lot of Amish neighbors, and they'll teach me, how to run some of the horse-drawn equipment.
Is that who owns the horses?
I own.
When you say you bring them
myself.
in, you just house them somewhere else?
No, so I own 2 horses and a small amount of equipment. But for larger jobs like plowing and disking, we'll oftentimes need more horses than what I have, and I don't own my own plow. So it's a riding plow, that you get to sit on. It has a few levers, and you move it up and down. Driving horses so reminds me of my raft guide days. Like focus and concentration, small amount of danger, small amount of consequence, and enough to allow your mind to focus on what you're doing and kind of get distracted, from all the weird stuff that
shuts out all the white noise.
Yeah, but you're on one thing.
Isn't it amazing how consequence lights up parts of your brain? Yeah. Like without that consequence, you're not dialed in the same way. You have to have that.
Exactly. And it's less fun. A high level of consequences is not as much fun, but just having enough consequence that I know that if something goes wrong, a person could get hurt. But so long as I keep on paying attention, it probably won't happen.
Right.
So that's where we bring it back to cover crops, is the horses are helping us grow cover crops, which we actually call forage crops. So in an effort to not just feed corn and soy, we'll plant 1 round of forage crops using the draft horses in the springtime. And on about March 21st of every year, we shoot to have organic kale, turnips, pea vines, and oat grass growing.
How do you pick those?
How did I pick those crops?
Right.
I want something that's really, really, really nutritious. It's like a superfood, and I want it to grow with a minimum of human intervention. I want the farmer to be the conductor of a great orchestra, where like I'm essentially allowing energy to rise or stopping energy from rising, but I'm not actually doing the heavy lifting part. And for the heavy lifting part, the sunshine, the rain, freezing temperatures,
nutrients in the soil,
like
the manure, the horses are tearing up the earth, like all of that.
Yeah. So what I want to be the decision maker, the conductor of the orchestra, the person who's getting energy rising or falling. And so once we chose those things are really good for pigs to eat. Pigs love to eat those things, and when pigs eat those things, the nutrition of their meat can almost go up 500%.
No way.
Just like grass-fed beef. Pigs don't have a rumen, so they can't live exclusively on high-fiber grass like wild grasses.
Right.
But
you mean a ruminant stomach that will turn grass or vegetables into proteins the way a cow does, right?
Exactly.
Just for listeners.
Exactly, yeah. The rumen is the 4th stomach in a cow's digestive system that's really packed with beneficial bacteria, and that beneficial bacteria has this miraculous ability to break down the cell wall of grass, and in the breakdown process release carbohydrate energy. So pigs can't do that, so I have to give them something that we could eat.
Okay.
Because we have the same digestive system as a pig. So if we could eat it, then probably the pig can't do. The pig is actually not exactly like us in that they are more omnivorous. Like they can eat acorns raw and be okay with it.
Or leather.
Or earthworms, or the roots of plants, or very bitter berries. The things that I don't know how they do it, but they seem to enjoy it. So then we move on to having a movable solar fence system. And it's all solar power, and then we just move this hot wire about 8 feet forward every day. And then we give the pigs their little tiny grain supplement right in that, and then they have to kind of hunt through it to find it. Oftentimes we feed them in the dark, so they can't use their eyes. They actually just have to go like chomping through it.
Wow.
And it's another great example of pattern and technique supplement getting in the way of like the heavy lifting part of farming.
Right.
So anyway, if we do it that way, the pigs will eat a high percentage of their diet will be green matter. I will be succeeding in my self-sufficiency goals. I'll be succeeding in reducing my feed costs. I'll also be succeeding in increasing the nutrient density of their meat to past the tipping point.
It's amazing.
Yeah, when one good thing happens, that's what a positive feedback loop is. A negative feedback loop is what most people are familiar with. A negative feedback loop is the deeper we go in one direction, the more confused or darker we become. And we've probably all experienced that. The farther we get from the light, the darker it is, and it's harder to extract ourselves from that system.
Or to even believe that there's light anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what is oftentimes not talked about is the exact opposite is true. The deeper that we get in a positive feedback loop, the harder it is to get into that dark space. When we start, is there darkness out there? You just got to remember that there is.
Yeah, there's monsters, man.
Yeah. But so long as we're creating that positive feedback loop, we can be making it easier and easier to have more goodness.
It's the one thing that I think you can exact discipline in your life, and it bleeds into every aspect of your life,
Yes.
I remember when I first started thinking about that, I thought, skipping school is hard. If you're a young boy or a man and you go, your friends are like, I want to skip school, and you go, no, that would be bad. That's a dark, I don't want it. And you resist it. And eventually you skip school, even though it was really hard to do, and you're like, eek! And then you're like, next time you skip school, kind of easy. And it's super simple to go down to that road completely into ignorance and kind of like negativity. I mean, and you can overlay that on anything in life, but that's an interesting idea. But I mean, it's amazing on the farm how many lessons are there that are like deep psychological lessons to make a strong, able human.
Yeah, very much so.
It's amazing, man. And everything you're saying, it reminds me. You've of course read the Omnivore's Dilemma.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like all of that. When you read about the ruination of the American farm and what's happened with monocrops and things of that nature, and how it takes down a perfect closed ecosystem that sustains itself through fertilization of horses and cows and crop rotation and moving the animals from here to here to here and just like to going, no, we're only going to grow corn that's government subsidized. And man, we've killed American farming, we've killed ecosystems, and now we feed our cows until they're poisoned, and we expect that to nourish us. It's so exciting when you're talking about your pigs. When you're telling me about where you're going, I mean, it's phenomenal. And what I hope is that it sets a precedent.
Yeah.
I mean, because God damn it, man, the standard is at the fucking ground right now. And the way that you raise the standard and go, and it's easier and more comfortable for me, it's like, yes.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, man.
Thanks, Tait.
It really is. Is this at the same point when you went to look to take your meat to market?
We had been a farm to market, or pardon me, I should say like a farm to table kind of farm. We were really influenced by the local food movement, and I was like, well, we're going to sell organic produce, eggs, chicken, turkey, beef, lamb, pork, blueberries, sweet corn, watermelons, the whole kind of old McDonald's farm kind of thing. We're gonna sell that locally at a farmer's market. And we tried that for a couple of years, and the awesome thing about about where we live is that we live in the middle of nowhere, and we can't. It's very easy to imagine wolves in the forest. You know what I mean? And nobody would know because it's so vacant and wild. And the bad part about that is there are simply not enough people who want to buy organic pork. And the people who are there are very thrifty and maybe know how to raise pigs themselves.
Why would I do that?
Yeah. I have my uncle does that or whatever.
Well, and also there's the people that are like, isn't it all that way? That's just what we have at home, kind of thing. It's like for a guy that lives in the city, it's like that's a special thing. Like you see the value of that. And if you're on the farm and you're a kid, you're like, isn't that like you go to other countries and you talk about organic? They're like, are you crazy? You put what when you water what? Like it's just unheard of the way we treat our food in America. Yeah. It's unheard of almost anywhere else in the world.
Have you heard that line that said, my grandmother had a word for local, healthy, clean, organically grown food. She called it food.
Yeah, man.
So when we realized that we had this passion for growing food and that we really wanted that to occupy most of my waking hours, just that creation of that food, and that there just wasn't quite enough people around to sell it to, we kind of skipped the medium step, the regional step, and we just went straight to national. So around that time, we started creating, it's the country's first non-GMO pasture-raised bacon sticks. They're called Roam Sticks, R-O-A-M.
And that's what I had last year, and it like at Paleo Effects, and it's a mind-blowing experience because I'm like super sugar sensitive, like I'm particular, and I when I ate that, and I was like, there's no way. And I'm reading through, and then we spoke a little bit, and I was like, God, and there's no time left in the weekend. I've been dying for this conversation for a year, man. Because what you do, I mean, I can't say it enough how remarkable and special it is.
Yeah.
So how did you start, like, this distribution of Roam Sticks and all that kind of stuff? It becomes a whole nother, and what a great name, Roam Sticks.
Yeah. So we started moving Roam Sticks, really talk about hacking our way through a learning process. My wife is an acupuncturist and I'm a farmer, so the world of marketing and distribution wasn't something that we had experience with. But they say that a large portion of communication is not so much in your words, but in your tone or your body language or the energy that you're sharing. And what I found was that where my experience was lacking, my enthusiasm carries me.
Right.
And I fall back on that a lot. So I never have to pretend that I know what I'm doing, because my experience is that 90% of the time, I'm so in love with what I do, and whether I explain it articulately or not, the people who I'm with capture that. The 10% of the people who don't, I didn't really want to hang out with them anyway.
Well, and those people probably aren't moving the needle very much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about, like, if you're clear about your values, this is what I've found, man. If you're clear about your values, you're a nice person, and people know your intention, there's not because a lot of times people, especially in America, they're a little reticent. They're like, I'm a little suspicious or standoffish. You're clear about your intention. There's nothing hidden about you. You're just, people are eager to help you, man.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, that is an awesome goal. I want to help you meet. I mean, we're monkeys that are about community more and about helping each other in cooperation than we are about conflict, really.
Very much.
Even though powers that be would like us to be in conflict, it's easier to manage and control that population.
Yeah.
But that's not our nature. Our nature, I think, as these apes are cooperative.
Yeah, that's right. It does bring me to another thought that's very central to our premise at Roam Sticks and Singing Prairie Farm. Is that we very commonly hear that when human beings touch a resource, we ruin it. Particularly when we touch a resource commercially, we ruin it. This is not a universal truth. You know, human beings can live very beautifully on the earth. There have been many societies who successfully found harmony, you know, with their environment. And so what I just in addition to having that positive feedback loop kind of idea as a story that's in our hearts, another is that yes, there is destructive or exploitive economic patterns out there that we should be aware of, but we also shouldn't lose sight of that there are creative, there are regenerative, there are restorative patterns that exist where human beings can touch the earth daily. We can take from the earth, we can nourish ourselves from the earth. And this is part of our purpose on being on the earth. We feed ourselves in a way that actually increases the diversity of the wild worlds around us.
I think it's interesting about humans like that. Like, I remember I had an American Bulldog. He's awesome, and he was young, and he got bone cancer in his back leg. And I talked to a bunch of people, and they said, you can take the leg off, he'll live fine. And I just think about the resiliency of animals or of pigs and problem solving, and how there's something in the human component that some of us will give up and will stop trying if we get in a negative feedback loop. A pig is going to find food. They're going to that dog. I take its leg off. He didn't miss a beat. The food's over there. He doesn't complain. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't say, hey, somebody take care of me. He's like, I guess I'm going over there. And he's as happy as he was the day before about it. He doesn't even think about it. He's just like, I'm about function and performance. And to get into that, like, I don't know what it is about the human component of like a free will overriding even what's best for you, you know, even your own greatest good. And it's an interesting thing to, I think once you implant that in a youth, maybe that stays longer, but to learn it later in life is a tough deal, man. Like, but God, that's I love the way animals mimic us, and we can just train ourselves. You want to be a stronger, mentally dominant person, like that's in dominion over yourself. The way is to look, because that's what they do. Their biology is begging them to be better, create, last, and go on to the next.
And enjoy the sunbeams. You know?
Yeah, it's not a hard, dark world.
Yeah. So that's really what our farm is. Our farm, while it looks like it's a location where we produce top quality pork, it's really an experiment where I play with the idea of what does it mean to be human, given the callings that I have. I think
it's also a spiritual endeavor.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, because it seems like it's all like what I think of as a perfect spiritual enterprise, really, in a way, is that it's sustainable, happy, and that nurtures itself. It's all nourishing and nurturing itself. It's not like, that's a being on the vibration of the universe in a way that is different than other people are experiencing, maybe because we get so disjointed and we get off the farms and we get like it's interesting, man.
Just a few things that I also might add, just for total transparency, is my wife is really the brains of the operation. Her name's Holly, and she's an acupuncturist, and we definitely wouldn't be anywhere without Holly at the helm. I do a lot of the day-to-day stuff. I manage the money and I manage the animals, and Holly is really a great strategic thinker, a long-term planner. You might say she's a great chess player in the game of pork.
Where would you guys like to go with the farm? Are you looking to grow the farm? How much can you satisfy a hungry population of the United States or the world with the pigs that you have? Like Roam Sticks, where would you like that to go?
When I think a year ago or a year and a half ago, we realized that we simply couldn't grow all of the pork. You know, like once I just started telling the story and sharing our passion and just all the cheesy pictures I take with my wife's smartphone, and people were seeing like, gosh, this is the pastoral scene that I want to nurse. Right. This is a way of sequestering carbon that I want to support. And I also realized that somebody had to administer the business. And what we did is we took a year of raising less pigs and me trying to figure out office systems, So now I spend several hours a day coordinating meat processing, the movement of meat. Now that we're moving bigger volumes of meat than I can put in coolers in my pickup truck and take to the meat processor to make sticks out of. So there are 6 other farmers that we buy meat from, and not all of them will do things like plant turnips, but we always make sure that the pigs are grazing on something, whether it's alfalfa or white clover or vegetative grass or acorns in the fall. And then we also make sure that the guys who we buy from are 100% non-GMO or organic fed. And we go for antibiotic-free, no confinement crates, no animal byproducts. So there's 5 or 6 things that we look for, and then we visit all of these guys and make sure.
Of course,
you know,
right.
As a business coach told me, you don't get what you expect, you get what you inspect.
I like that. That's what I think of. I think about maybe even doing a licensing or going, here's the prototype of this type of farm that we're doing, here's our successes with it. And I mean, you could easily have that mimicked around. And I mean, when you talk about the nutrition rate goes up 500%, that's anybody's ears perk up. That's incredible. And to be able to make those claims and go, this is the new standard for how we raise meat. Like you hear about, because you hear ghastly stories about snout to butts with these, like, and the things that they do to control the pigs, with cutting the, like, it's ghastly what happens,
gnarly
right?
Stuff.
And
gnarly stuff
I'm not going to stop eating meat, but I'm really careful about where I find that meat. You know?
Amen. That's for sure. So when as now we have the opportunity to grow, we would like to branch out. We would like to make products for more farmers. We'd like to contribute to the enrichment of small farmers wherever they are and make specialty kind of paleo products for them, because you know one of the things I've found that I have a talent for is creating paleo products. I don't always know what to do with them once I've created them, so I oftentimes need to have a team of people who will help me take this green, colorful story and this delicious, nutritious product and then put it in front of people. So we need help with that. And we've had some good help with that.
There's a great TV show in there somewhere.
Yeah, sure. But more than all of that, I would like to have a positive influence on pork production in America. Because I grew up on a small family pig farm, and I went off to college right at the same time that the CAFO, the concentrated animal feeding operations, the giant pig barns that have 20,000 pigs that never see daylight in them. I went off to college at the time that those things really took off. And as I went off to college, my dad realized that, you know, he was not getting any younger, and he had just lost his labor force, basically. So he says, well, I'm just going to stick with row crops and beef cows. So he sold his pigs, and it turns out that he got out at a great time because the bottom utterly fell out of pigs. And it was just because the whole vertical integration thing, you know, the sort of evil genius of the pig barns was very successful.
Isn't it weird?
It totally worked.
And we think of something smart and ingenious, we're like, for sure, if it's smart and ingenious, you should do that. Like, there's nothing in your brain that yells, red flag, don't do that.
Yeah.
We never really consider the consequences of, like, maybe that is super smart, super ingenious. We for sure should not do that.
Yeah. You know what, Joel Salatin, he's kind of one of our mentor farmers. He says something that America does with some regularity is hits the bullseye on the wrong target.
Sure does, man.
You know, so like we have applied a great amount of resources, research, study, labor, you know, human toil to creating a system which does not enrich farmers, does not sequester carbon, does not create a healthy product, and then does not enrich rural communities. It's a ridiculous thing to have applied energy to.
And it also robs everybody else, because now we say, well, and the people that win are the people on Wall Street.
Yeah,
really. I mean, because the thing is the cost is deferred to every American taxpayer.
Yeah.
To go ahead and pay for these subsidies.
Yeah, that's right.
That goes not to a farmer. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, and they were like, American farmers going to what there was. It must have been when all that came for, and you hear about all this stuff, and like. They're like, well, we got to save the American farmer, Ronald Reagan saying, or whomever, and that's not at all what happened. We're like, yeah, we're for subsidies, and we don't know what has happened, the overreaching and overarching eradication of the small American farmers. What the result was with poisonous food that then poisons a whole populace, which causes poorer thinking, poor physical condition, increases health care. Like the list goes fucking on and on and on in this cascading event from this one horrible decision that was super smart.
Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We hit the bullseye on the wrong target, and these are the consequences. And what I'd really like to see is more rural communities opt out. I'd like to see more rural communities decide that they're going to do something which profits them, which creates, what we might say greater ease and comfort within their own families. It would make farming look attractive to the next generation. The way that we farm does not require hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. We use horses. I have $500 worth of solar electric fencing equipment.
And your buddies that come over.
And my buddies that come and help it, And so where our capital is it takes, what we do is skilled labor. It's like being, what would I describe it? It's kind of like being a contractor. If you know how to build a house, you have a skill which is not common, and you get paid. You're rewarded for that skill. Farmers, I would like to see farmers have that as their mindset, because the knowledge and experience necessary to raise pasture-raised livestock, we can teach people how to do that, and they can learn the subtleties and the nuances through trial and error, and that way of living has 100 good things that go along with, which don't involve $250,000 tractors, and then growing a product that you don't have control over the end price for. This is why I'm so nervous about growing corn on the commodity market. Right now I think the price of corn is below the input expenses.
But then it's made up for on the other end of it. It's like it's a failing business.
It's very difficult to be to attract the next generation of farmers when there is so much volatility in the commodity market. And the equipment is more and more expensive. Like I would like to present farming to the next generation as you don't need 5,000 acres. If you can lay your hand for animal farming, if you can lay your hands on 25 to 50, you can probably make a living. Horses are a great example. I bought my horses for $150 each. I got the harness for about that same amount. We borrow equipment from friends that shared cooperative stuff. And cheap solar energy, to power the fencers, and it just feels so cool to drive horses.
Well, and that's the thing I was just thinking as you're saying that, like to have a horse versus a tractor, it's like you're in love with that horse. Like you have an energy that you share with each other and you recognize each other. Nobody has that with a fucking tractor.
I certainly don't.
I've got a friend, Clinton, he was his dad lives down here and he's in the beef business. But Clint wants to get out of the work he's doing, and he'd like to raise cattle. And people are like, well, there's no money in that, especially in the Southwest back in New Mexico, unless you have 500 head or 1,000 head, and it's $1,000 a cow and all that kind of stuff. And it'd be awesome to be able to turn that back. Like, he's eager to do that, but he needs to make $500,000 first so he can invest into his dream, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, the barrier to entry doesn't need to be so high for such a poor output.
That's kind of my point exactly. For 3 years before I raised livestock, I ran a 250-person farmers market with organic vegetables. And we just ran it on 10 acres. It was a profitable enterprise. The requirements for purchasing equipment were reasonable. A person could make their payments based on, you know, their margin, their percentage they were able to keep was very reasonable. It was small enough and profitable enough that a generation of people who didn't grow up thinking about dollars in the millions and acres in the thousands can wrap their minds around it. So what I really think we need is just more farmers. I mean, lots and lots more farmers who are regional, who are growing food, not a commodity, but a food that they can sell to their neighbors. This is really why we made it through the Great Depression as a country, because at the time of the Great Depression, 50% of our labor force was involved in food production. And without that, I shudder to think, you know, what the trajectory that our country would have taken if we simply weren't able to eat.
How prohibitive is it if I'm a young farmer that wants to get into this business then to say, yeah, I can sell cuts that I butcher in my garage to my neighbors, but like I can't sell that on the open market with things like the FDA and all these regulations, especially shipping and like how do you crack that code?
Well, I won't say that farming is easy, you know, because it is being self-employed and it takes an entrepreneurial mindset and a lot of experience, and usually more years than you would expect. This is our 7th year farming all on my own, and we became...
But also with the benefit of generations.
Generational knowledge.
You know, I mean, that's the huge aspect of this, where it's like harder to fall down now than it was 3 generations ago. Yeah.
So I won't say that farming is easy, but I would like it to be easy enough that we can attract people, and that just comes with experience and a certain tenacity. When Ernest Shackleton advertised for his South Antarctic voyage, his memo in the newspaper was, you know, men wanted, long hours of extreme labor, hardship, and total darkness, pay minimal, honor and glory if successful.
Right.
And
sense of high adventure.
A sense of high adventure. Now, there was a certain gloominess to it that I hope doesn't pervade, you know, vegetable production or chicken production.
Well, here's the thing, though, is if it does, you don't want those guys anyway. You want those tenacious motherfuckers that are like, you know what, we're going to chew it up anyway and maybe we die, let's go.
So in Ernest Shackleton's case, he was looking for, I don't remember how many men, 10 or 15. He got 3,000 applications for that really hardcore, you know, request. So I guess I kind of put that out there also to farmers, is if you are of the mindset where you enjoy maximum effort, and if you enjoy a certain amount of risk and a high amount of challenge, then farming can be for you. But don't expect your first paycheck until maybe your 5th year. You know, maybe your 3rd year if you're very good or very lucky. But if you really think that that's where your happiness is, and you love risk, and you love a certain, it doesn't have to be high risk, it doesn't have to be life and death, but it can be a small amount of risk and a high level of challenge where your mental capacity is really asked for maximum effort. If that's what you like, and that is what I like, then farming can be awesome.
Everybody I know, basically, wants to have chickens and goats at least at their homes. These are people in LA, like everywhere. It's like I think the time is ripe for this kind of a real grassroots revolution in that way. And it's exciting to think about. If there's 10 pig farms like you, go, these pigs were all raised on raspberries. Mostly. Here's the taste of that meat. These were raised on venison. These were raised on kale. Like you have a whole hillside of kale, and that's what the pigs are eating. That is amazing. I mean, you vegans out there should try it.
We grew over 100,000 pounds of kale 2 years ago, and the pigs ate it.
That's amazing.
And it was great. This is on our home farm.
And then the story about your friend that had all the pumpkins. And he wants all those cleaned up.
We brought in a semi-load of pumpkins.
So cool.
And you know, I always strive for what's the low labor solution, because as much as I love farming, I also like doing nothing.
Right.
I think my hammock is one of my favorite places on my farm.
That's cool.
So so whatever I'm doing, I'm deliberately trying to create low labor systems that involve the animals doing the work or the sunshine doing the work instead of me. So we drove the semi through the pasture in a giant loop with me and a couple of friends on the back, and we just had these huge cardboard combo boxes on pallets. We were just chucking pumpkins as fast as we could. And by the time we got done with the end of the loop, we had thrown out like, I don't even know how many, 18,000 pounds, 22,000 pounds of jack-o'-lanterns. And then they were in place, and we never had to carry them again.
Right.
You know, and then all we had to do was we had to do something that we were already going to do, which was move the electric fence.
Yeah, move your fence line 8 feet every or whatever.
Keep doing that, and then as we do that, we come to the pumpkins effortlessly.
That's so rad.
Yeah, and then, you know, I've always thought that something the organic standard should employ is every farm should be required to have one hammock per farmer. And the farmer actually needs to log time in his hammock. So whatever systems you're creating on your farm, it should have a hammock in mind.
I like that. I like that. Think about hammock placement.
Hammock placement, time spent in the hammock.
Don't put it over the pigs. That hammock goes south, man.
Yeah, they'll eat it.
And you.
Yeah, and just my reason for saying that is because our highest creativity, our highest inspiration does not come from a perpetually fatigued mind. You know, our highest inspiration, our ability to be our best self, our ability to create the most amazing world that we can, comes from a mind which has allowed itself to rest.
Yeah.
I like to think that inspiration is like your in-breath, and the expression you create in the world is your out-breath. So what I see a lot of people doing is just expression, expression, expression. You know, yang energy out there, putting energy into the world. But at a certain point, we reach our ceiling. And having the discipline of leisure, you know, an hour a day in the hammock, reading a poetry book or reading whatever, doing anything, going fishing, I don't even care what it is, but something that allows your mind to rest. The inevitable outcome of that is that you are resilient and that you can be creative, and then you can fill the world with that creativity and resiliency.
Yeah, your imagination explodes.
Yeah, very much so.
And without that, it's counterintuitive in a way, because we think, if I want to be smart, I need to be thinking, I need to be putting in information, I need to be figuring things out, I need to be solving things, and there's something to that, but that's a constraint on the mind where the mind can't breathe, I think, and this idea that I need to be free of thoughts and really relax is the actual way that I become creative and imaginative, like, is pretty phenomenal, and you have to train yourself to do that, because if you're a go-getter, like, that wants it, you think, I need to be doing something to get a result, and sometimes the something is to pause and rest and just sit back and try to breathe into nothing. Yeah. And then the greatest output comes.
That's right. That's right. It comes after that.
Yeah.
You know, nobody gets big lifting hard every day.
Right.
And I saw a John Wayne movie where John Wayne says kids grow when they're sleeping.
Yeah.
And that never changes until the day we die. You know, our growth, our inspiration, our resiliency, it pops back up when we rest.
That's what, when you tell guys that whether it's training in a fight gym or in weightlifting or whatever, do you know that none of that is going to make you bigger or better? None of it is. You're going through activity right now. The thing that'll make you bigger and better is the next 2 days if you rest and nourish yourself correctly. That's, you know, and that's the law, man. That's how it is. Yeah. How do people find Roam Sticks? How
do people find Roam Sticks? We are in natural grocery stores. We are on our own website, roamsticks.com. That's ROAMSTICKS, roamsticks.com. Barefoot Provision sells them. One Stop Paleo Shop sells them. ButcherBox sells them.
Can we order directly from you also?
Yeah. You can order directly from me.
Great.
From our website.
Are you on Instagram?
Yes, we're on Instagram. We're on Facebook.
Awesome. I love that.
That's all.
There's videos and all, like what you're doing to like when you say I want this movement of guys that would love to be in farming, like that's what it is. It's a conscious farming book by you. It's a how to, like, because goddamn, it's exciting, man. Like what you do, you're one of the most exciting guys here at this thing of high achievers. Like it's really phenomenal, man.
You too.
Well, come on. I'm just here, just a conduit. Like I don't do anything. But yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you, and thanks for spending time.
Yeah, well, thanks for listening. I love talking to people who like to ask questions and like to listen.
It's so exciting. I want to come and see your farm.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And if you guys are listening, check us out online and shoot me an email. And if I'm home, we'll go walk around and we can get you chased by pigs just as easy as me.
Golly. Have you ever heard a horror story of somebody getting eaten by pigs?
Yes. Yeah, I have.
Do gangsters ever come up and be like, listen, we got to get rid of a body, John, and just look the other way for a minute?
No.
There's no human meat pigs. What I think is interesting, too, I have a friend, Dozer in Hawaii, and he hunts, bow hunts all the time. Yep. And he says his favorite time of the year is after the berries all bloom and everything, because it's so different, the flavor of the meat. And when you were talking about the kale and then the venison and then the pumpkins, I was like, these are all different. Like you could have specialty sticks for each, like you get to derive what you'd like out of that. And when people think of bacon or they think of one flavor, and it's like, it's not that. There's these nuances in there, and as you really cleanse your palate of sugars and of all the additives and preservatives, you get to enjoy life in a whole different way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Tait.
Until next time.